Yes, welcome everyone to the Marijuana Times Show. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's January 5th, 2018. A lot of stuff going on. You find out about a lot of it over at marijuanatimes.org. A lot of great articles over there. Also, these videos you can find over there as well. Share them on your social media networks. Also, you can search the Marijuana Times on Apple Podcasts to find the audio version of the show. Also, if you want to check out the videos other than marijuanatimes.org and other places, search Marijuana Times on YouTube and on Facebook, and you'll find what you were looking for. We got a lot of stuff going on today. Talk about what's going on in Australia. They hope to become a major exporter of medical cannabis. Also, the fallout from yesterday's announcement by Jeff Sessions and the Department of Justice that they are rescinding the Cole memo. We have more about that and the feedback and the blowback from that coming up as well. In the midst of all that, Vermont continue to move forward with their plans for legalization as well. All of that coming at you in mere moments. But first, of course, we have to tell you the Marijuana Times Show is brought to you by Cannabis.com, organic, all-natural pesticides. Places like California and Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and beyond. Cannabis cultivation is legal. And if you want a safe product, if you want to use safe, all-natural pesticide products, you're going to be putting harmful chemicals on your grow. You also don't want to run afoul of any regulations that may govern pesticides in your state. Well, if you want to do all of that, then you need to check out Cannabis.com. Their line of all-natural organic pesticides. They can also help you become regulatory compliant in your state. Go check it out. Cannabis.com, a proud sponsor of the Marijuana Times Show. Our first story, of course, from marijuanatimes.org. Health Minister in Australia says he wants his country to become the world's top medical cannabis exporter. Australia's legal cannabis market is still in its infancy, but a recent move from the federal government could position the country as one of the top medical marijuana exporters, with a lofty goal of eventually becoming the biggest supplier globally. Health Minister Greg Hunt has been spearheading the move, which allows for the export of medical cannabis. Hunt says they'll be focusing first on growing the market domestically and then expanding the supply to the rest of the world with cannabis products. Hunt said, quote, "This is actually a very important step for our domestic patients and our domestic supply. By knowing they have an Australian market and an international market, that improves the likelihood of growing and production in Australia." And at this time, regulations in the country prevent the exporting of marijuana, but that will change once Parliament gets back to work in February. The regulations will be revised to include medical cannabis products such as oils, sprays, patches, and tablets. Hunt says the ultimate goal behind this move by the government is for Australia to become a top competitor in the global cannabis market, perhaps even the biggest. Imagine that. Australia, the biggest medical marijuana provider and supplier in the world. Of course, their medical cannabis law just became legal was approved and enacted in 2016. So they're just starting. They have a long way to go. But could be Australia. Could be someone else. You would think it'd be the U.S. or Canada or someone like that. But you never know. Don't count out the little guys, as they say. Australia, U.S. and Canada. Australia is coming for you. They're going to outsupply you. And of course, the more supply, the better. It's awesome. The more supply equals lower prices. More supply equals greater access to supply. All of that. So that's great. This next story is from the Washington Post. As I said yesterday, the Justice Department and Jeff Sessions, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, announced that they are rescinding the Cole memo. Basically, long story short, he is opening the way. Sessions is opening the door for federal U.S. attorneys to prosecute state legal medical marijuana and recreational marijuana businesses in their jurisdiction. Of course, they got took a lot of fire from Republicans, but also took fire from a lot of Democrats, of course, including all of the ones who are looking to the 2020 presidential nomination to take on presumably Trump, but these days you never know. It could be someone completely different. It could be Mike Pence. It could be someone we've never heard of. 2020 is a long way to go. Moments after Attorney General Jeff Sessions made it easier for federal marijuana laws to be enforced In states where possession and use of the substance is legal, the drumbeat began. One by one, Democrats from likely to dark horse candidates for their party's 2020 presidential nomination denounced Sessions' move. By the end of the day, there was unanimous support among these ambitious Democrats in supporting the state's rights to legalize marijuana without federal interference, which was the stance of the Obama administration. Of course, at least in the second term, that was the stance of the Obama administration. It's a telling sign of just how popular the issue is with the party's base. The statements came rolling out from Senator Kristen Gillibrand. We talked about yesterday, and we talked about some of the feedback that came from the Sessions decision. Parents should be able to give their sick kids the medicine they need without having to fear that they will be prosecuted, Gillibrand said. Cory Booker said in a floor speech, the Sessions was, quote, determined to revive the failed war on drugs and needed to be stopped. He said, history has shown our deeply broken drug laws disproportionately harm low-income communities and communities of color and cost us billions annually in enforcement, incarceration, and wasted human potential without making us any safer. Representative John Delaney, who's already announced his bid for 2020 in the Democratic nomination, he's from Maryland, he said, the Cole memo provided clear guidance to an otherwise conflicting situation. Revoking the Cole memo will restore that confusion and undermines the will of voters in several states. Kamala Harris came out and blasted Sessions, as did Senator Warren. Again, all 2020 contenders or wannabe contenders for Democratic nomination. Tom Angel from Marijuana Majority made an interesting point that I've seen a few other people make. He said, quote, in a weird way, I think the Sessions move might actually help us by accelerating efforts to change federal marijuana laws. Whereas until now we've sort of been operating in a gray area, I think now it's clear that a permanent resolution is needed. That is reflected in the fact that so many lawmakers from across the political spectrum are pushing back hard right now, which is a good point. I mean, there was a lot of hemming and hawing and, well, maybe we won't do this. We're going to wait till see what Sessions does. There's a lot of waiting to see. We're going to wait to see what Jeff Sessions decides, which took him almost a year to decide to rescind the Cole memo. But now that the decision has been made, that can't be used as an excuse anymore. We can't say, oh, we're going to wait to see what Trump does. We're going to wait to see what the Trump administration does, which apparently the Trump administration is backing now what Sessions wants to do, despite the fact that Trump said in several instances during the campaign that the state should decide on medical marijuana and legalization of medical marijuana. But apparently he doesn't feel that way anymore. Trump changed his mind. Imagine that. Or lied straight out. Who knows? Imagine that. You never know. It could be anything. Like I said, it's weird. It's such a weird time. It is crazy. But Colorado, U.S. Attorney in Colorado has already come out and said that no changes are planned in Colorado as far as federal marijuana enforcement. Hopefully other U.S. attorneys follow that path because a lot of state lawmakers, a lot of state governors, attorneys general, however you say it, I think the second one's right, attorneys general, have come out and said from the various states that they're going to fight back whatever Sessions does, and the DEA and the federal government just doesn't have the resources to go after all of these states and all these businesses. They're going to need help and cooperation from state and local authorities, and at least at this point, it doesn't look like they're going to get that cooperation. And if the U.S. attorneys, which I said hopefully they follow the path of the attorney in Colorado, but if they don't, as we know is possible, I mean, we saw a massive crackdown during Obama's first term from U.S. attorneys in 2010 and 2011. If there's some attorneys that feel the need to, U.S. attorneys that feel the need to go after these businesses, well, maybe they won't find hospitable local officials or state officials, for that matter, and they may get a huge fight. They may have a huge fight on their hands. They may not want to have that fight if they want to focus on other things, which is what Jeff Sessions should be doing as well. He should be focusing on other things, but instead, he's got a hold of that marijuana bone he's got in his teeth, and he's shaking and shaking, and he see what he can get out of it. So we'll see. But hopefully Tom Angel's right. And this spurs Congress and people who are on the fence in Congress to pick a side and get this done and get marijuana removed from the Federal Controlled Substances Act and remove and repeal federal prohibition of cannabis. While this is going on, lawmakers in Vermont were voting to legalize marijuana just hours after Sessions set the stage for a possible crackdown. The Vermont House of Representatives voted 83 to 61 in favor of a bill that will fully legalize the possession of up to an ounce of marijuana and allow individuals to grow up to 6 plants at home. The bill is expected to win approval in the Senate, which passed a nearly identical version last year. The state's Republican Governor Phil Scott has already said he is comfortable with the legislation and signaled that he would sign it. Marijuana, if this happens, Vermont would be the first state to legalize marijuana through the legislature rather than via statewide ballot initiative, but also coming on the heels of the Sessions announcement. It's pretty, it's good. It's good. It's showing that not only the states where it's already legal are going to fight back, but states where it's not yet legal, they're already signaling that they're going to fight back against Sessions. Apparently, Sessions is more troubled by an 80-year-old using medical marijuana to treat a terminal health condition than he is by coordinating election strategy with the Russians, says Senate President pro tempore Tim Ash. So it looks like this is going to pass. The Vermont bill does not have sales. So it's a quote-unquote non-commercial bill, which means that there will be the possession and the growing, but they're going to study whether or not they will have sales or introduce sales at a later point, which is not quite, it's decent legalization. It's not great legalization. It allows, the black market to operate in even higher, even better, more protected way, but it is better than prohibition. So it is a step forward. And again, coming on the heels of what Sessions said, it signals that there's a lot of people out there that are willing to fight and ready to fight Jeff Sessions on this. Of course, we are ready to fight Jeff Sessions on this here at the Marijuana Times. Keep going to the marijuanatimes.org. Share the stories. We keep you up to date on this story and all the other stories that are going on in the cannabis community. Check out the Marijuana Times show, of course, all the past videos. Like, share, comment. Help us spread the truth about cannabis in that small way. We can do our part to fight what Jeff Sessions is doing and what may be coming down the pike, as they say. Because the door's wide open now, so we just wait and see what U.S. attorneys are going to do. And if Congress is finally going to get off their butts and enact some sort of marijuana law reform at the federal level. Again, we'll follow all those stories here at the Marijuana Times. Thank you to NationsideCannabis.com, Organic All Natural Pesticides, for being a great sponsor of the show. If you'd like to sponsor the show, email us at info@marijuanatimes.org. Another great week. Thanks, everybody, for continuing to listen to the show and support the show and share the show on your social media and in real life. Please continue to do so. It's more important now than ever for us to fight back against encroachment from the federal government when it comes to cannabis laws in states where it's legal and states where it's going to be legal. So help us fight. Like, share, comment. We'll see you all next week here on the Marijuana Times Show. Thanks, everybody.